that I come from a business family, they usually say, you must have had a head start. So I want to begin by correcting that idea. Being a third generation entrepreneur doesn't mean starting ahead, it means starting under pressure. You inherit name, you inherit expectations, and you inherit fear. The fear of being the one who lets everything collapse. So today, I want to talk about that one simple idea that being a third generation entrepreneur doesn't have a advantage but has a responsibility. You don't inherit any additional advantage, but you inherit additional responsibility, and responsibility that changes the way you think about work, leadership, and the vision. I did not begin with any ambition. I began with adjustments. Like many young people, I wanted a structured future, a degree, a profession, and a predictable life. Instead, I found myself inside a small hotel business that had more problems than a plan. The systems were weak, the resources were limited, and the risk was personal. This family business was not like any other project. It was a gamble, and it was really a family gamble. And that was a serious pressure, not the pressure of competition, but the pressure of consequences. And so, my first leadership lesson was not about the strategies, it was about humility. I did not start in an office, I started where the work actually happens, in the kitchen, in housekeeping, at the reception. Not because it was inspiring, just because it was necessary. You cannot lead what you do not understand, and you cannot redesign what you have never experienced. That phase taught me something important. Titles doesn't build business, and understanding does. When you clean rooms, you learn what slows people down. When you serve guests, you understand what disappoints them. And when you see your staff struggle, you understand and learn where the systems are missing. Slowly and gradually, the business grew. It was not because of any dramatic decisions, it was of many small corrections. Better training, clearer processes, and more consistent services. Momentum does not come with one big idea, it comes with many small corrections. And I realized something important. Growth doesn't begin with scale, it begins with stability. Then came the moment that redefined everything, the pandemic. Until then, leadership meant growth, new properties, new market, new strategies. And suddenly, leadership meant survival. Hotels shut first and opened last. There were no guests, no movement, and no revenue. But they were still people. The employees, the families, and the responsibilities. My staff didn't ask me about profits. Instead, they asked me about tomorrow. And that confronted me to ask an important question. What does a leadership means when growth is not possible? And that period changed my thinking about leadership. Instead about asking, how should I expand? I asked the question, how should I adapt? Instead of waiting for the conditions to improve, I redesigned how the business worked. We reduced the dependence upon the physical interactions. We simplified the operations. We introduced technology not as an innovation, but as a protection, not to modernize the business, but to survive and keep it alive. That moment taught me something that changed everything. Leadership is not tested when the things are easy, it is unveiled when the things are uncertain. And that was my real transformation. From the worker to the manager, from the manager to the custodian, from someone who wanted to build to someone who had to protect. And when the business survived, I understood something. The legacy is not something what you preserve, it is something what you translate it in future. My parents built the business with sacrifices and instinct, and I had to build it with systems and structures. Same values, but different tools. And here is the real challenge our generation faces: not replacing the past and not worshipping it either, but converting the experiences into designs, traditions into processes, and survivals into strategy. Later, I made a decision that confused many people. I chose to start again in a new city. It was not because my old business failed, it was just because leadership requires distance to evolve. And I thought that what I have learned could work when the things are not familiar. New city, new market, new team, and new challenges. And that phase taught me something different. The growth is not always upwards, it is sometimes forward. And forward growth requires discomfort. Today, when people see our properties, they just see the success, but they don't see the years of rebuilding. They don't see the mistakes and they don't see the repeated corrections. Being the third generation entrepreneur doesn't mean starting with confidence, it means starting with accountability. You don't just grow the business, you modernize it. You don't just inherit the vision, you extend it. So, what does this mean to any founder or a young entrepreneur or a successor in a business family? It means your job is not to protect what exists. Your job is to ask the better questions. What is outdated? What is inefficient? And what no longer serves to the customer? Your job is not to copy the past. Your job is to redesign it. Because the leadership today does not mean holding the position, it means owning the relevance. And the relevance comes from three things: understanding the ground, adapting under pressure, and translating legacy into future. So if you are young and starting something inside something imperfect, a family business, a small venture, or a half hearted business, do not reject it, redesign it. Don't feel behind because what you are learning today, most people have skipped. Don't fear of starting small, fear of standing still because your struggle is not a delay, it's your training. Your doubts is not your weakness, it's your awareness. And your responsibility is not the burden, it is an opportunity for you to create something bigger and better than what you have inherited. So, here is my message for every young founder or a successor in a business family. Stop asking the question, how can I grow faster? Instead, start asking, what must I rethink? What must I rebuild? And what must I reframe for the future? Because this future doesn't belong to those who protect the old models. This future belongs to those who understand them deeply enough to evolve them. Thank you so much.